Kylie Minogue.
Hi, this is Leo and a big welcome back to the Sound Museum, the music podcast that explores that personal connection we all have with the music that we listen to. As always, firstly, thank you so much for listening to the podcast and for your feedback and love on last week's episode where we celebrated the 30th anniversary of Celine Dion's album, The Colour of My Love. So much lovely feedback from the Celine Dion fans, so I really hope you've enjoyed the episode. And as always, if you have missed any previous episodes of the Sound Museum, you can actually catch up anytime you like on your favourite podcast provider. I've done over 40 episodes so far this year, and there's only a few to go before I have a bit of a break over Christmas and New Year, but there is more than 40 episodes for you to enjoy on your favourite podcast provider. So make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. Now today, guys, we are celebrating another anniversary. Now we're not going quite far back as last week, but we're going back 20 years this week to 2003, and we're celebrating the 20th anniversary of Kylie Minogue's album Body Language. Now, I have to admit, I have not played the album in full for a couple of years, so I've really enjoyed this week going back to the album and going back through all the B-sides and the remixes. I've really enjoyed going back through the Body Language era for this podcast episode. So strap yourselves in because we've got a big episode planned for all you Kylie fans out there. Now, before we get started with the Body Language episode, let's just refresh our memories and go back to 1999. Kylie had just signed a new recording contract with Parlophone, and when the year 2000 kicked off, Kylie was back to pop with the camp pop-tastic album Light Years, her first album with Parlophone. Just for old time's sake, let's just go back through those incredible singles from the Light Years album. A bit of a Light Years medley for you, spinning around on a night like this, Kids with Robbie Williams, Please Stay, and Your Disco Needs You. Now, speaking of Your Disco Needs You, that was tipped to be the lead single from Light Years at the time, but the label thought the track was too camp, promoting an outcry with her gay fans, especially in the UK. Your Disco Needs You did find a limited release in Australia and some European countries when it became the final single from the album. Personally, I love Spinning Around, but I adore Your Disco Needs You. Now, I actually heard Your Disco Needs You in 1999. Prior to its release, one of my friends was working with Kylie at the time and played me the track, and I absolutely loved it. Now, even that was more than 23 years ago, I'm still a bit gutted that Your Disco Needs You didn't have a full single release. Anyway, Light Years went on to hit number 1 in Australia and number 2 in the UK and number 8 in New Zealand, with worldwide sales of over 1 million copies. In October 2001, Kylie followed up Light Years with Fever. Now, at the time, I do remember thinking that maybe it's a bit too soon for a new album so shortly after Light Years, but Fever became an absolute monster smash thanks to a very special lead single, Can't Get You Out of My Head.
It's in your eyes. I can tell what you're thinking. My heart is sinking too. It's no surprise. I've been watching you lately. I want to make it with you. It's in your eyes. I can tell what you're thinking. Ooh, it was love at first sight. 'Cause baby, when I heard you for the first time, I knew we were meant to be as come into my world. Won't you lift me up, high up on your love, baby, come.
Another medley for you from the Fever album, beginning with that monster hit, Can't Get You Out of My Head, In Your Eyes, Love at First Sight, and Come Into My World. Can't Get You Out of My Head was a monster hit, becoming Kylie's biggest hit to date, reaching number 1 in 40 countries, selling more than 6 million copies worldwide. The album Fever reached number 1 in Australia, UK, Austria, Germany, Russia, and Scotland, number 3 in the US and New Zealand, and top 10 in most European countries. The album Fever has sold more than 6 million copies worldwide, making it Kylie's most successful album to date so far. And that brings us forward to November 2003. 20 years ago, Kylie followed up Light Years with Body Language, and hopes were high. So let's go through the album track by track. Now, while I was doing my research for this podcast episode, I did come across a interview disc from the Body Language era. Now, some of you may not know what an interview disc is. It's basically given to media at the time to promote the album, given to radio stations, television, newspapers, magazines, and it basically has a list of questions which on radio, for example, the announcer can ask, and then it has Kylie's answer. So quite an effective way to service media with some interview questions from Kylie to promote the album Body Language. So in saying all that, let's kick off with a bit of a snippet from that interview disc. Here is Kylie talking about the lead single, Slow.
And the first time I heard it in its demo form, I just thought, wow, this is great. It's really powerful in its simplicity, and the fact that it never actually gives you the release that you want. It just keeps you. Yeah, I love it, and I guess it does have, just with some of the sounds in it, a slight retro feel. But I think it's thoroughly modern, I have to say. It was the first day I'd worked with Emiliana and Dan, who co-wrote the track. I worked in the studio with them, and they had all these sheepskin rugs on the... so it must have been the sheepskin rugs from Australia, I might add, on the floor in the studio. And I think they'd been recording some guitars, so the microphones were really low. So it's the first time I've ever recorded on my knees, or, down on these lambskin rugs. I don't think I've ever sounded like that on a record before, having my voice quite low, quite deep, and very intimate. I think even without the vocals, it's a sexy track. It's as I said, it takes you to a point and it doesn't let you get any further. So I guess naturally the vocals that I delivered were a reflection of that.
Come on and dance with me, yeah, slow. Skip a beat and move with the body, yeah, slow.
That was track number 1 from Body Language, the first single, Slow, written by Kylie, Dan Carey and Emiliana Torino, also produced by Dan, Emiliana and Sunny Rhodes. Now, Slow was quite a successful first single from the album, hitting number 1 in Australia, UK, Scotland, Denmark, Romania and Spain. Number 3 in Croatia, Greece and Finland. Number 4 in Hungary and Norway. 5 in Ireland, 6 in Canada and Italy, number 8 in Germany and Netherlands, and number 9 in Belgium and New Zealand. It was also top 20 in Austria, Sweden and Switzerland, and hit number 1 on the US Dance Club Songs chart. Now, we can't mention the song Slow without talking about the video. Oh my goodness, what an incredible video this is. Directed by film director Bailey Walsh. He's also directed videos for the likes of INXS, Oasis and New Order. The video was shot in Barcelona, Spain. Kylie looks stunning, and that slow movement style choreography by Michael Rooney is simply beautiful and really effective on screen. That stunning blue outfit is straight from the runway. The video for Slow is a firm fan favourite, and Kylie has said on record many times that Slow is one of her favourite singles. Track number 2 on the album is Still Standing. In this next clip, Kylie talks about working with producer Ash Thomas.
Ash Thomas was, I think it's safe to say, the starting point for this album. I was in the office of my A&R and we were just having a very broad discussion about where we think we're going, and it's always difficult at that stage because it's like speaking in tongues. You're trying to say what you want, but it's like speaking in fashion, saying, it's something, but it's nothing. And everyone goes, oh, I know what you mean, which is, we're all making things out of thin air. Anyway, they played me some rough demos that Ash had done, which were mainly just sounds. They didn't have a song on them. And we were all immediately pretty taken by that style. At that point, I didn't realize I had met Ash previously, and once I realized who he was, I was even more excited to go and work with him. And it was at that time we started throwing around the Scritti Politti reference, which makes sense later on for another one of the songs. But Ash is gorgeous. I loved working with him. He's very amusing because when we were doing some demos up, he had to put in a few extra chords, but he got out his chord book. I said, "What are you doing?" "Oh, I'm just looking up a chord." And put it in. I mean, there was a few instances like that which were really refreshing, and I think that comes through on the album as well. It's not entirely polished everywhere, and I think people are pretty wise these days to the fact that you can press a button and basically make someone sound decent. We didn't really like to press that button. So there's elements of the song with my vocal that do sound fairly raw and imperfect, and I think that gives something back to the record. So Ash having to look up how to play a certain chord added to the charm.
I'm still standing, keeping you dancing, yeah. You know you want it. I'm still going, making the party blow the way you like it. Do you want to sing?
That was Still Standing, the second track from the album, written by Ash Thomas, Alexis Strum and Matt Hay, produced by Baby Ash, aka Ash Thomas. I love the production on this track, especially around the 2-minute 10 mark. Oh my God, love that bit of the song. Such a fresh, cool sounding track. The third single on the album is Secret, Take You Home.
This song pretty much arrived as you hear it, and I re-vocaled it. I think it's really punchy, it's cute, it's got attitude, and the mention of me having to do a so-called rap, I can hardly even say the word, it seems so unlike me. Of course, my creative director and best friend William Baker keeps reminding me of One Boy Girl from Rhythm of Love, saying it'll never beat One Boy Girl. I just thought it was really, really cool and punchy song.
Here's my secret, I'm a girl who likes to have fun. And if you can keep it, you just might be the one to come and party, baby. But don't be misunderstood. I'll be cool, would you be cool? I wonder if I take you home. Here's my secret.
That was Secret, Take You Home. When you look at the credits for this track, 9 people had a hand in writing it. Is that a case of too many cooks in the kitchen? Or it could be a case each person adding their own flavour until the song was actually at that level of completion. Hard to know, but this track was produced by Johnny Douglas. It was released as a single in Taiwan. It's quite catchy. I love that funky beat, but I'm not really a fan of the Kylie rap on this track. It takes me right back to 1990s Rhythm of Love, where Kylie had a bit of a rap in One Boy Girl. Who can forget that? But this track here is okay, but it's not my favourite from the album. In this next clip, Kylie talks about working with producer Curti on the track Promises.
I met Curtis in Los Angeles, went into the studio with him and Karen Poole, who's had a lot to do on this album. Yeah, Curti comes from... It was very different working with Curtis because he's far more kind of techno. He's more about pressing the buttons and the sounds, as opposed to coming from a more... I don't want this to be taken the wrong way, but from a more musical area. That was fine. Karen and I worked on lyrics, and his concern was the sounds. And actually the songs of his that ended up on the album, the lyrics were done by Dave Billing. So there's times like that where we worked on demos, none of them actually made it. In fact, quite a few of the early demos I did, none of them have made it through to be on the album, but without them we wouldn't have made it to the next stage. So Curti, yeah, I first met him in LA, and then the tracks that we had on the album were completed. I recorded them in Spain.
What to say when all the words have gone? Promises, promises. What to do when all our thoughts have flown? Promises, promises.
Written by Curtis Mantronic and David Billing, produced by Curtis and Johnny Douglas. Now, a promo CD of the track was serviced to media in Ireland to promote the album. I've always loved this song from Body Language. The synths really make this track. I remember thinking at the time this should have been a single, and fast forward 20 years, I still had that same opinion. It's a great track. Love Promises. It's time for track number 5, more sweet music from Body Language.
I was in the studio with Ash Thomas and Karen Poole, and I think we just done some vocaling on something else and decided, okay, let's do a demo. And they're lovely people to work with, so enthusiastic, and you know, you're part of a team when you're doing this. So Sweet Music wasn't called Sweet Music when we began. We were just throwing around the concept of writing a song about writing a song and illustrating that with the music. So when we say put the hi-hat in there, it comes in there, which is my favourite part in the song. And a line like put the Fairlight on the track, I was asking Ash, I had no idea what a Fairlight was. I said, Ash, what's a term? What's something that you will only find in a studio? I mean, he said, yeah, Fairlight. Yeah, there's only about 5 people in the world that know what a Fairlight is. We talk about putting a sample in, and and then of course a sample comes in. So I think that the idea comes across, and we had a bit of a stumbling block towards the end, but we got it.
That was Sweet Music, written by Kylie, Ash Thomas and Karen Paul, and produced by Ash Thomas. What I love about this track is Kylie's sexy vocal on Sweet Music. There's great lyrics in the song. I mean, put the fairlight on the track, as Kylie mentioned in the audio clip before. Another great production from baby Ash Thomas. Kylie worked with producer Johnny Douglas on the Light Years album, and I love his work he done with the late George Michael, so I've always been a big fan of Johnny's work. In this next clip, Kylie talks about working with Johnny and Karen Paul on the track Red Blooded Woman.
Johnny Douglas did quite a few tracks for me on Light Years. Then we skipped Fever. I'm not sure why. He's one of those people that if you look at his body of work, you know, it's pretty impressive and it spans a number of years. But again, he's just so delightful. And Karen Poole is really coming up in the world of songwriting at the moment, and she's just a doll. I mean, she took this project so much to heart. We'd call each other saying, is everything all right? Have you got what you need? How's the track sound? I mean, really girly about the well-being of these songs. And it was just so nice to have another female to be working with on the album. So Red Blooded Woman is another track, or Red Blooded Woman is a track that Karen and Johnny co-wrote for me, and what can I say? I just think it's fabulous. So you can imagine, it was very girly, and when we would do BVs, we just couldn't tell who was who. It was the two of us, like, is that you or is that me? I mean, I'm a really good mimic anyway, so I can kind of blend in when I need to, but I found her really inspiring. She's so down to earth, and as I said, she really put more in than just her songwriting talent. She really, really cared.
That is track number 6 from the album, Red Blooded Woman, the second single from the album, written by Johnny Douglas and Karen Paul, and produced, of course, by Johnny Douglas. I love this line from the song, "You got me spinning around, round, round, like a record." Not only a slight nod to Spinning Around, but maybe also a bit of a nod to the 80s classic Spin Me Round by Dead or Alive. Another great production from Johnny Douglas. That boy hook really sticks in your head. Red Blooded Woman hit number 1 in Romania, number 4 in Australia, and number 5 in the UK. It was also quite popular in New Zealand, reaching number 19 but going gold, spending 3 months on the New Zealand singles charts. Now, I remember at the time visiting my parents in Auckland around this time, and I heard this track a lot on radio in Auckland. The track was also a top 10 hit in Belgium, Croatia, Denmark, Finland, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Ireland, Italy, Netherlands, Poland, and Switzerland. So quite a popular track across Europe. The video was shot by Jake Nava in LA. The English film director has done videos for the likes of Beyonce, Britney, Adele, and Lana Del Rey. It's a very sexy, edgy video with cars, the trucks, the motorbikes. It's very American in its styling, and I've always loved the video for Red Blooded Woman. Moving on to track number 7, let's slow things down a bit for this sexy track.
If there's a moment of perfection on the album, perhaps Chocolate is it. Surprisingly, it had a little bit of a bumpy journey to get to that place. Initially, it had a rap section in the middle, and there was talk about getting someone a rapper to do that. I really didn't want that. I just thought, you turn on the TV and that is nothing unusual anymore. I don't think it's cutting edge, for me anyway. So this song was on, then it was off, then it was on again, then the whole album was off, and it really, this song was so important to the album that after having decided to release the album at the end of 2003, then it was delayed till 2004. Then we got this song right, had a new middle eight written for it, and then the album was back on, and here we are. So Chocolate was a good learning curve for me. We recorded that it was the middle of summer in a tiny studio with the sun coming in, and we couldn't have, there's no air conditioner in there, so high tech. Mind you, there was a fan, but the fan was didn't help with such light, breathy vocals. And the vocals are all breathy and very light, and of course you've got to stack a million of them. And literally I was becoming woozy in the studio, and I'm a fighter. I'll stay in there as long as I have to. But in the end, I had to say on the mic, I said, I'm not being funny, guys, but I think I'm going to faint. Can I just come in? So it was all about timing, how long I could go with very little oxygen and so much heat. And when you're doing that breathy type of singing, it's exhausting, but well worth it. I think it sounds really, really beautiful.
That is Chocolate, the third and final single from the album, written by Karen Paul and Johnny Douglas, produced by Johnny. Chocolate is such a sexy track. Those breathy, whispery vocals are just stunning. Now, apparently the original version was to have a featured rap section by US rapper Ludacris. And again, I remember at the time being on a Say Hey online fan forum. When that news came out, the fans went ballistic, and not in a good way. So thankfully that version has never got a release, though it did leak online several years ago, so you can check that out on YouTube. Chocolate hit number 2 in Belgium and Romania, 6 in the UK, 7 in Hungary, 10 in Scotland, and 14 here in Australia. Once again, Kylie teams up with Dawn Shadforth, who directed Spinning Around and Can't Get You Out of My Head. The video for Chocolate is simply beautiful, and once again, gorgeous choreography by Michael Rooney. We're up to track number 8 on the album, Another Obsession from Body Language.
I love the sound of Obsession, I have to say that. Well, basically you've got an octave of vocals, or 2 octaves of vocals, I should say, and it just sounds different. I mean, I've loved exploring the different ways to use my voice, dependent on the track, and Obsession definitely stands out. It's unique in its vocal delivery from the other album tracks.
You don't need love, it's a question of obsession. So drawn to your whole reflection, you want someone like a personal possession to shine light on your perfection.
That was Obsession, written by Curtis Mantronic, David Billing and Mim Gray, produced by Curtis and Johnny Douglas. This track is about the end of a relationship. Another catchy track from the album, Obsession is a Dangerous State of Mind. In this next clip, Kylie talks about getting her Marilyn on for the track I Feel For You.
The delivery on this song, I decided to go a little bit Marilyn, descending the staircase. But in the context of a disco song, it was probably, I don't quite know where that came from, but it works. Quite often, yeah, I do have a visual imagery as I'm singing, because a lot of these are not about a personal experience. It's like acting. You embrace that song, and for those 3.5, 4 minutes, you're in that world. Then the next song, you're in a slightly different world. And I think that coming from an acting background is possibly what gives me the visual element as well. That's part of the reason for calling the album Body Language, is that is something I can't escape, whether I like it or not. Well, sometimes I like it. Sometimes it's purposely done. Other times it is absolutely not something that I had intended. But that's part of my expression. That's part of who I am. And to try and completely back away from that is just, that's never going to work. This is just a bright, summery, rolling song. I mean, I always think of this song in a car and people just nodding their heads.
Feel for you. I can go on and on and on and on. I feel for you. I can go on and on and on and on. I feel.
That was I Feel For You, the only track on the album produced by Electric J. A really quirky little track, this one. I love the keys and guitar on I Feel For You, and Kylie's sexy vocal is all here. Kylie really enjoyed working with songwriter Emiliana Torino, as you can hear in this next clip.
There is a moment of genius by Emiliana. Her lyrics are quirky, interesting, and succinct. I want my records back to get my heart on track. That is brilliant. And I think I say it 2 or 3 times in the song. It's so good. That can summarize the end of a relationship. And this song's a little tricky. It's not immediately clear what I'm saying, but I think it definitely has some depth. And the fact that Green Gartside, who is the guy from Scritti Politti, is singing on it, that moment where he comes in, I collapse every time. His voice is so amazing. His appearance on this song really made the album come full circle from beginning, from its initiation to completion, because Scritti Politti was one of our references, one of our sound references in the beginning. And I remember my A&R guy Miles saying, "Wouldn't it be great if we could get, the guy Green, if we could get him to do something, I don't know, something." We'll go, yeah, whatever. Okay, what are we doing next? Then 6-7 months later down the line, finally the calls to Green reached him wherever he was, and he went into the studio and put a middle eight on Someday, and I just thought it was so cool that he was a reference in the beginning, and Ash, the producer, was one of the first names that were mentioned, and then that came to be, and I love Someday.
Someday, the lights will fall and you will know. If you do it slowly, you might just find it's worth it.
That was track number 10 from the album Someday, written by Kylie, Emiliana and Ash Thomas, who also produced the track. I love the lyrics on this one, and I quote, "You have abused and used me, now I'm going home. I want my records back to get my heart on track." Such a cool lyric. This track features vocals from Green Gartside from the 80s new wave band Scritti Politti. Never really been a bit of a fan of their work. They weren't really on my radar back in the 80s, but I love his vocal on this track with Kylie. Now, if you can, cast your minds back to 2003. Do you remember seeing those pap shots of Kylie relaxing on a yacht while on holiday before the release of Body Language? Such loving days.
Back to Dublin, I'd actually been on my first sailing holiday, which was wonderful, and literally got off the boat in Italy. Sometimes my life sounds glamorous, even. It's like I didn't do it. I just got off the boat in Italy and flew straight to Dublin, and I'd already done a few days with Bifco previously. First songs I demoed for this album were with these guys in Dublin. Anyway, I arrive off this trip, but they happen to know I've been on a boat because it's been in the press. And they had, I think, 3 tracks knocked up, and they said, "Well, we thought you might like to write one about being on the boat." And I said, "Oh, yeah, I'm still floating from this vacation. And that's how Loving Days came about. So there's a few kind of diving in the blue references. We tried to not make it literally sound like I'm in decked in yachting gear. But I think it's very, very pretty.
Precious time with you. This is precious time with you. Diving in the blue. We are riding on the wave. These are loving days.
That was track number 11 from the album Loving Days, written by Kylie, Richard Biff Stannard, Julian Gallagher and Dave Morgan, produced by Biff and Julian. Loving Days is one of my favourite tracks from the album. I love the chillness of the song. The strings are just gorgeous on this track. Kathy Dennis co-wrote Kylie's massive worldwide hit, Can't Get You Out of My Head. And in this final clip, Kylie talks about working with Kathy again on After Dark.
After Dark was written by Kathy Dennis and Chris Braid, and she apparently came rushing into the offices of Parlophone the day after she'd written this track, because I know, having bumped into her at a musical lunch, something or other, and she said to me, I'd really like to be involved in the album, but of course she's a very busy lady. So it was good news for probably her and myself when she had a track that she thought would be appropriate for me and for this album. And of course she wrote Can't Get You Out of My Head, so we do have, don't go back such a long time, but we go back in a big way. And of course Kathy delivers quality, and as soon as I got After Dark, it was like, well, can't argue with that. She's done it again. Went in and recorded that with her and Chris. It was very straightforward. The demo, again, it's like some of the other tracks on the album where their strength is their simplicity. There's really, it's not overbaked.
Baby, I'm ready. So what you waiting for? Feel sexy, your body. Let's take it to the floor. After dark, all night long. Dusk till dawn. What makes you hungry? Oh, baby.
That was the final track on the standard edition of the album Body Language. After Dark was written and produced by Kathy Dennis and Chris Braid. I love the bass guitar at the start of After Dark. Another killer Kathy Dennis chorus. This track is a funky end to the album. So that was the last song on the standard edition of the album Body Language. There was some album bonus tracks released in some territories, beginning with this track, which was on the Australian and Japanese versions of the album.
'Cause we're living in slow motion. I wish I could freeze the space and time. Everything's wide open. Now that you're here, it's unspoken.
That was Slow Motion, written by Kylie, Andrew Frampton, Mark Stent and Wayne Wilkins, produced by The Oracle. Slow Motion is another stunning track. Those strings, the vocoder on sections of the track, the epic film soundtrack vibes towards the end. So pleased we got this as a bonus track on the Aussie edition of the album. Another album bonus track released in Japan and the US. This is You Make Me Feel. You Make Me Feel, produced by British producer Tommy D. Now, Tommy D has worked with the likes of Sophie Ellis-Bextor, Janet Jackson, Beyonce and Adele, and he produced the now infamous song from Right Said Fred, I'm Too Sexy. Remember that one? Now, I love the production on You Make Me Feel. It's really underground sort of sounding, really cool and funky, and a great addition to the US version of the album. album. So what do I think of the album overall? So the album obviously has influences from 80s pop, but it also explores further musical genres including synth pop, electro clash, R&B, and hip-hop. Due to the success of Fever in the US, her team obviously wanted a more American-sounding album with Body Language. That's certainly evident on the single Red-Blooded Woman, and on album tracks like Sweet Music and Secret Take Me Home. The album is quite sexy, not a young girl sexy, but from a woman's point of view, it's a really sexy woman album. That sexy lead single, Slow, it's minimalistic, oh so brilliant, and that last single from the album, Chocolate, if you ever need a sexy but mature track for the bedroom, this is it. The album was released in the US with that bonus track, You Make Me Feel, but in Target stores, they also got a bonus promo CD featuring 3 live tracks from the Money Can't Buy concert, Can't Get You Out of My Head, Slow, and Red-Blooded Woman. Moving on to the singles from the album, let's discuss the B-sides. So first up on the Slow single, there were 2 B-sides, Sweet Music from the album, and a non-album track called Soul on Fire.
Cause now you set my soul on fire. Didn't know how good it was till you were gone.
That was Soul on Fire, written by the same team that produced Slow, Dan Carey and Emiliana Torini, also produced by Dan, Emiliana and Sunny Rhodes. Soul on Fire is a stripped down, funky kind of track, just guitar and percussion, a nice companion on the Slow single from Dan and Emiliana. Moving on to the second single from the album, Red-Blooded Woman, there were again 2 B-sides on the single that were not on the album, beginning with Cruise Control. Now, Cruise Control was also a bonus track on the US version of the album, written by Kylie, Karen Paul, and Johnny Douglas, who also produced the track. Now, an interesting story on Cruise Control. There is a rap feature on this as it appears on the single, but apparently it was released by mistake. Johnny Douglas made a version with US rapper John Paul. Parlophone had a copy of it and accidentally included the track on the single with no credit given to Sean Paul. It all got a bit messy, unfortunately. Let's take a listen now to that rap feature on Cruise Control.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. Situation getting really live again. Tell them what for young out with the players and the riders and beside of them. And them say them tired of the liars them. Fires and connivers them we never get tired of them. They glide of them, especially the money side of them. Watch it, girl, but them a try to make a ride of them. Denied again. Some of them a move like a Spider-Man. Tell them say them now open wide again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. Situation getting really live again. Tell them what for young out with the players and the riders and beside of them. And them say them tired of the liars them. Fires and connivers them we never get tired of them. They glide of them, especially the money side of them. Watch it, girl, but them a try to make a ride of them. Denied again. Some of them a move like a Spider-Man. Tell them say them now open wide again.
So that's the version that appears on the CD single of Red-Blooded Woman. This next snippet is the version that was supposed to be on the single. It is shorter and without the rap. Cruise Control is a lovely hidden gem in the Kylie B-side canon. Love this amazing B-side, even with the rap. Another awesome Johnny Douglas production, too good to be a B-side, I reckon. The second B-side that appeared on Red-Blooded Woman is a track called Almost a Lover.
Oh, you're more than a friend and almost a lover. It feels so good, I can't help but wonder. I can make you We got to flame, got to flame. I want to fight.
Written by Kylie, Karen Paul and Ash Thomas, who also produced the track. This is another slightly laid-back, sexy track with a cool 70s vibe. You can tell Baby Ash produced this. The production is stunning and Kylie sounds amazing on this track. For the third single, Chocolate, we only got one B-side. This is City Games.
City games, people doing what they do. Feel a change through the night. Slow it down, feeling kinda look beside.
Written by Kylie, Richard Stannard, Karen Paul and Julian Gallagher. Produced by Richard Biff Stannard. Apparently this track was one of the first songs recorded for the album, and at the time it was rumoured back in the day the album was going to be called City Games. This is a nice track. In the end it didn't make the final cut for the track listing for Body Language, but very pleased we got this as a B-side, the final B-side from the Body Language era. On Mercedes' single of Chocolate, there was also a live version of Love at First Sight from the Money Can't Buy concert. So we've gone through the B-sides for the Body Language singles. All those songs are not on the album. And over the years, Kylie has given us some amazing B-sides. I think from memory, the last B-side we got was during the Kiss Me Once era back in 2014. Sadly, since streaming, we no longer get those amazing B-sides. It seems these days the B-sides are the bonus tracks we get on the albums. Personally though, I love B-sides. They are a dying breed. Kylie has released 30 singles from Tension, but all we get are 2 tracks, the single and the extended version. Why not a 30 single maxi with more remixes and a couple of B-sides? That would be amazing for the fans. And with Kylie's hardcore fan base, she will certainly sell those numbers. Talking of B-sides, make sure you check out my podcast episode celebrating the B-side from back in April. It's definitely worth a listen if you're like me and you love your B-sides. Let's move on now to the remixes of the 3 singles from the album Body Language, beginning with the lead single Slow. In this medley, I've got the extended mix, Radio Slave mix, Synth City remix, and the Medicine H remix.
Slow down and dance with me.
Awesome but very different remixes of Slow, and who can forget this awesome remix from the Chemical Brothers. Love that remix of Slow from the Chemical Brothers. Now, for the next single, Red Blooded Woman, we only got 2 remixes, the Whitey mix and the Narcotic Thrust mix.
Never get to heaven if you're scared of getting high. You never get to heaven if you're scared of getting high. You never get to heaven if you're scared of getting high. You never get to heaven if you're scared of getting high. Lost around you.
And lastly, we have Chocolate. Now, for the single release, it was given a slight remix for the radio edit, which I've included in this medley, along with the EMO mix and the Tom Middleton Cosmos mix. Interestingly, when the singles were released in 2003 and 2004, all 3 singles from the album had the music video included on the CD single. You pop the CD single into your computer and you can watch the video. Another thing I miss about CD singles, there was also a limited edition 12-inch picture disc released for Slow, Red Blooded Woman and Chocolate in the UK, and I've got those 3 copies in my collection and they are gorgeous. Now, back in 2003, Kylie did not tour the album, but there was a one-off concert called Money Can't Buy. And this took place on the 15th of November 2003 in London to promote the album. The concert was later screened on ITV1 in the UK and Channel 10 in Australia. It was also given a DVD release titled Body Language Live. The concert was fabulous, divided into 4 acts, beginning with Power Spy Night, where Kylie performed Still Standing, Red Blooded Woman and On a Night Like This. Act 2 was Bartello, where Kylie sang a mashup with Breathe and Je T'aime, along with After Dark and Chocolate. Act 3 was Electro, with Can't Get You Out of My Head, Slow, Obsession and In Your Eyes. And on the final section, On Your Bike, Kylie performs Secret Take You Home, Spinning Around and Love at First Sight. On the DVD, there's also some bonus content, including videos for all 3 singles and some behind the scenes footage of the concert. I recently watched this DVD for the first time in years the other night. Kylie seemed so relaxed, and the new tracks work really well live. So if you haven't got the DVD, you can watch the concert on YouTube. So we've gone through the album track by track. We've gone through the B-sides and the remixes and the Money Can't Buy concert. We can't not talk about the amazing visuals and promotional photos for the Body Language era. For the single Slow, the cover album and promotional photos, they were all shot by fashion photographers Mert and Marcus. These images are very French and heavily inspired by the iconic French actress Brigitte Bardot. The images are absolutely stunning, and in my view, some of Kylie's most beautiful images. Merch and Marcus have gone on to work with some of the biggest names in the world, including Lady Gaga, Taylor Swift, Rihanna, and Jennifer Lopez. Finally, let's talk about the stats for the album Body Language. The album reached number 2 in Australia, going 2 times platinum, and number 6 in the UK, going platinum. It reached number 23 in New Zealand and number 42 in the US. It also charted in most European countries. The album has sold over 1.5 million copies worldwide. Now, at the time of recording this episode for you, there is rumoured to be a 20th anniversary edition of the album Body Language, which has yet to be announced. It's widely speculated that we will finally get the album on vinyl for the very first time, which would be amazing for Kylie collectors. Personally though, I would also love a remastered CD version of the album with all the B-sides and bonus album tracks included, together with some previous unreleased tracks. That would be amazing. Aside from those tracks, I'd also love a remix disc. Now, there weren't too many remixes on the single, so all of those could be included along with some unreleased remixes. That would be heaven. So that brings us to the end of this week's episode celebrating the 20th anniversary of Kylie Minogue's album Body Language. I really hope you've enjoyed the episode and learned more about the album, B-sides and remixes. Make sure you rediscover the album on your favourite streaming service, and if you have a copy on CD, get that CD out, start playing it and enjoying those fabulous Body Language moments all over again. Now make sure you're following the Sound Museum podcast on social media. We are on Facebook, X, TikTok and Instagram. All this week I will be celebrating the album Body Language with all those images and videos. So I really hope you enjoy going back to 2003 with me this week on my social media. And speaking of social media, make sure you check out my socials this weekend to find out who is on next week's podcast episode. But until then, you have a great week. Take care, and I will see you next week.